Welcome to the Mindful Healers podcast with Dr. Jessie Mahoney.
And Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang.
We are physicians and leaders who are also trained in coaching, yoga, mindfulness, and integrative medicine.
We are also mothers, spouses, sisters, daughters, aunts, and friends.
In this podcast, we share candid, heart-centered, loving, science-based, thoughtful, and often fun conversations about the challenges life throws at us.
With our collective experience of over 30 years in physician and personal wellness, we reflect and offer pearls of wisdom for navigating life's challenges with more ease.
From parenting, marriages, money scarcity, cancer survivorship, uncertainty, challenges in practicing medicine, we cover it all.
We invite you to refresh your perspective and empower yourself with mindset, mindfulness, and other well-being tools that actually work. A quick reminder that nothing in our podcast is medical advice.
Welcome to today's episode, Wishing as a Mindful Practice with Alexa Fisher, who is the CEO of Wishbeads, which is the original intention setting jewelry. And I have invited Alexa on today because I think I'm one of her best customers. And her bracelets are a big part of the retreats that I offer. And those of you who have come, who listen to this, will know exactly what I'm talking about. And also because they are responsible for something that I am celebrating today, which many of you know a bit about, that I have a new home and retreat center that is mine as of this morning. So very fortuitous that it was today. And my wish for that went in my very first Wishbeads bracelet. I actually have quite a few now. But it went in my jade version, which was wealth and wisdom, which so much
Yes, wealth and
pleased me.
wisdom. There you
Yeah.
go. Perfect.
So the intention of today's episode is to talk about the idea of wishing as a mindful practice and intention setting. And intention setting is something we talk about a lot on the Mindful Healers podcast. And also because I am a kids yoga teacher as well as a grown-up yoga teacher. And in our kids yoga teacher training, we talk about intentions as wishing because kids can connect to it. And so while many adults think wishing is fluff and maybe it's not a powerful practice, I want to change that framing today and talk about the power of wishing and the impact it can have and what can happen from wishes, and also a visible reminder of your wish. We often talk in my retreats. So in medicine, we have something called CME, which is continuing medical education, and it's how you learn and how you remember things. And one of the key things there is how you reflect on things and also having visual cues and reminders. And it's one of the reasons that I hand out your bracelets at the end of the retreats. And I actually talk about how this is a visual reminder of what you want more of in your life, whether it's specifically designed as a wish or not. And so with that, I'm going to have Alexa introduce herself.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much, for being such a wonderful fan. But more than that, I would say that I also so deeply appreciate that you truly understand and see and carry on really the vision of what I intended when I created Wishbeads. So I'll tell you just the briefest, or you and your audience, the briefest of introductions, but essentially at the core of everything that I've done, the various chapters in my career, it is centered around my love of people. And that first took form as my background as a professional actress. And I was trained at undergraduate and graduate school as an actress. And really great acting is about looking at a character and asking them, what is their goal? What's their objective? Or what do they want? And when you think about us as human beings, we all have different goals. And that may be to find a new retreat center. It may be to find the great love of your life, to get clarity on your purpose, to lose weight, whatever the thing is. But it's a goal. And it really shapes the story of your life, the story that you're creating, maybe the conflicts that you face. So that was something that I leaned into and actually ended up doing lots of commercials. I probably sold you all lots of things on TV. I was on hit TV shows. And one day I had an epiphany when I was appearing as a guest star on the TV show Bones. And I was playing a lawyer. Something bad happened to my character. And I'm laying on the dirty floor where we were filming. And I had fake blood coming out of my mouth. And I had a epiphany where I was like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Like, it was bad, because the business of acting is very different from the love and the passion of acting. And I found myself spending ungodly amounts of time waiting, just waiting. There's a lot of waiting around when you make television, film, and commercials and things like that. And I felt like this tug at my heart that I knew that there was more for me. So I actually asked for a sign from the universe, God, my higher power, on that dirty floor when I was feeling, dear God, what am I doing with my life? I said, please give me a sign. And the next day or the day after, my friend Tamara calls me up out of the blue and said, and she was actually, she was at the time a makeup artist that I met shooting a commercial. And she said, Alexa, I'm doing a new business and I need someone to be a media trainer for a very high profile coach of a client of mine. And I think you'd be great at it. And suddenly it was like a light bulb went off and I found myself saying yes before I even knew what I was saying yes to. My body was just like, yes. And what ended up unfolding was the next chapter of my career. That opportunity turned into coaching, online courses, public speaking, confidence coaching. I worked with teens. I worked in nonprofits. And the idea was to empower people with the skills to be comfortable in their own skin, to identify what they want, and to have some skills, some tools to be able to show up in their authentic selves, whether that's speaking or being on camera. That was my sweet spot, really translating what I knew as an actress to empower people in their everyday life. And over the course of about 10 years, I made a whole library of online courses, which have now reached over 200 and let's say almost 30,000 people around the world, which is crazy. Then so I was busy doing my life, feeling quite full. And then one day in the shower, literally, heard the name Wishbeads. I saw an intention setting experience where not only would you visualize what you wanted because you were seeing it as if it already had come true, but you would then write it down in detail. You would roll it up, that paper up, glue it, and make paper beads literally with your wishes inside. This was the first product of Wishbeads. And when I tell you it came in an instant, that is literally what happened. The name, the experience, the product. And I was like, what? And it was so out of left field that I almost didn't believe it at first. And I thought to myself, because I'm a wildly practical person, I thought to myself, the name Wishbeads is so obvious that I'm sure that is not available. I said, but if it is available, it's a sign. So I'm like dripping wet out of the shower. I run to the computer and I look up Wishbeads, anything I could find with Wishbeads, nothing. I look up the trademark. I picked up the wishbeads.com. I secured all the things. And I was like, okay, universe, if this is what's happening, help me out, because I really didn't think I'd be in the product business. So this is my backstory.
Wow. I love that. That your body was a yes too. I think that's so, and discovering things in the shower. I think so many of us think that like wishes is fluff, and yet the most brilliant ideas come in the shower.
In fact, my same friend Tamara calls it God's phone booth.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I think it's because we're mindful in the shower. We're relaxed. And so we're not distracted. And so that's when your brain can actually have its best thoughts.
I agree. And I also believe there's also some properties of water itself.
For sure.
So when you're washing your body, you're obviously cleansing off dirt and whatever, but the water has an ability to sort of open us up in a different way. And even let's say a meditation practice or yoga, that's like a shower for your nervous system. Yes. And I think when you talk about being intentional, for me, because I know the shower is my spot, and then I I actually set an intention before I go in the shower now. Now I don't wait for inspiration to come. I actually create ritual. And even if it's a microsecond, if I'm struggling with something, or I have an inkling of an idea, or just something, it's just the briefest of intentions before I step in. And then I'll have a shower. And I live in California, so I take quick showers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes it's just what you need to sort of give yourself some alignment.
And I love the idea. We often talk on this podcast about intentions. And I'm like, you can have an intention for the day. You can have your wish beads for years. You can have your intention for the day or an intention for the shower.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It really brings about the awareness of choice. And I think in this world that we live in, which seems to just get weirder and weirder by the moment, we have to remember that we have a choice about the story we tell ourselves every day. Mostly it's the story that's just looping about ourselves, our home. Forget the world for a moment. Forget what you're seeing on Instagram, just yourself. That agency is the biggest gift in the whole world. And if we can choose with our intentions to cultivate this love of self, this love of environment, cultivate care for our homes, our neighbors, our neighborhoods, this is how we awaken to literally, in my opinion, the sweetness of life. And for me, wishing is that bridge in, because a wish, and this is why I'm so passionate about reinventing the way that people understand the power of wishing. Because if you step back and you think about this ritual that we do, blowing out birthday candles, can you imagine, like, what other thing does practically everybody do, but we give it so little understanding of its power?
Yeah.
But there's something there, because why do we keep doing it? So imagine this thing that people already understand what it is. It's not some made up word. It has cultural context, and yet it contains the innocence of possibility, of curiosity, of ritual, of celebrations, of family, of togetherness, and acknowledging another year that you get to live here on the planet. And for me, a wish is that moment. Even if you think about a ritual over a birthday candle, you stop, maybe you close your eyes, you connect with your heart, and you ask yourself, what is my wish? What do I want? Now imagine if you really understood that this connection to your heart, that for me, I feel like inside your heart is this beautiful seed, and inside this seed contains everything that you intended to create and experience in this lifetime, your wish. And like the acorn contains everything that an oak tree needs, it's in this protective shell, the acorn. And for us, we have this seed that's in our hearts that everybody's born with, doesn't matter who you are. But this protective shell, our invitation is to soften the shell, to release that hardness that we've kept protected, so that we can nourish that seed, the magic of inside that seed, with our thoughts, our love, our attention, our intention, our ritual, community. And that's how it grows. That's how you start to see it sprout.
And so for people listening, this is just so magical. I had no idea you were going to say any of that. But I teach hand to heart and connecting with your heart. And I share this beautiful concept from a physician who's now 87 or 88. And her name's Rachel Naomi Remen, and she wrote a number of New York Times bestsellers. But she has a new kids book out, and it's about seeing with your heart. And she talks about how we forget how to see. We are born seeing with our heart. We forget how. And if we can, you need to get this book, See with Your Heart. It's like having an acorn in your hand and knowing it's everything that's within an oak tree, for example, and how seeing with your heart is seeing in color rather than black and white. So it's something I use in yoga all the time.
Yeah.
And that part is actually in the author's note, which is written kind of for healers, and she calls herself Dr. Rachel. And so because I work with physicians, it's this idea of seeing with your heart and also allowing your heart to be seen. And we're sort of taught, you talked about it in a protective shell, we're taught to put it in a protective shell and not let it, don't feel anything and don't have any wishes because you have all these other things to do or desires or whatever you want to call it. And so this idea of connecting, letting your heart see and be seen, which I think actually, if you think about healing and medicine, is literally what we need anyway, right? We should be,
so powerful.
right.
So
we
powerful.
should be coming from love, and we should be seeing with our hearts. And if we want to be healing, that's really where the healing comes. And so this idea of connecting to it and then literally taking that and turning it to something external, like a wish or a bracelet or something else you can see.
Yeah.
But I actually find, and we'll talk about this in a minute, that, I give out wish bead bracelets at my retreats, and that I give them out at the end. And one of the reasons is that people have spent the time before connecting with their hearts. And honestly, I don't give them in 1-day retreats either, because I don't think that's enough time. And I want people to really have time to really slow down and really do the work. But that once you're there and you know what it is, then you have the visual on your hand of what it really is, not what it should be or what you're supposed to want, but what you really
Or
want.
everybody always, I'll tell you, there's like either what I hear is that like, I have no idea what to wish for. It just seems so foreign. There's so much protective layers that it's just like, I don't, or what I also see is I just need to wish for somebody else.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that's
interesting. Yeah. I'm just going to wish for my friend who's going through a divorce, or my friend who just got cancer, or my husband, or my child who just graduated, or, there's all these wishes. And I say, great, you can send your love, but it has to start here. You have a wish, and you living your life fulfilled, you will have so much radiant love coming off of you because you are living your wish. That is actually the healing power, the connective power. That's the thing, that it's never your job to make someone else's wish come true.
Well, and
that's their joy.
Wishes are fluff. But if we live from our wishes, then you're bringing, the best of you to the world. And how amazing.
Definitely. Definitely.
Reflecting too on this idea of retreats and wishes. And what I notice is at the end of a retreat, nobody has any worry about what to put in that wish bracelet. They wouldn't have any idea on the first day. But by the time they've really taken that pause and reconnected with themselves and become mindful, and they're no longer completely exhausted and depleted, that it's really interesting, because I have never heard anyone on the last night think that wish bracelet was not for them. But I'm certain if I gave it out on the first night that they would. And that's the power of taking that time and really be connecting to yourself. And I don't think it's powerful if the wish is for someone else. We can't wish for someone else. We can't know what they want.
Yeah, it's not our story. It's their story. And I have a dear friend of mine back in November was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And she told me, and she said, I had to take, she didn't want to talk to anybody for about a day and a half. And then when she said, I needed some time to wah. And then she asked herself, what am I meant to learn? And then she proceeded to turn on, because she is all about love. That's her whole world is teaching love and being love and all this stuff. So she just said, what am I meant to learn with this? And she turned that energy, that lens of love, shined it so brightly onto herself. And in doing so, showed up for all of her treatments with so much love. And admittedly, even like the cursory Googling that I did, I was like, I'm like the most positive person in the whole world, but my heart was very, very heavy at the diagnosis. And she went through her treatment, found herself a great team of people. Her cancer is gone now.
Wow.
It's May.
Yeah. Wow. Look at that. And love is very powerful.
Yeah. And I'm sure in the months to come, she will share her story more openly. And I'm not to belittle anybody who says if their outcome or their situation is not that. I'm not here to compare and, whatever. Everybody has their own journey, but she knew in her heart that something energetically wasn't in alignment and she was meant to learn something.
Yeah. Well, it can't hurt.
Well, it certainly couldn't hurt. And she was literally surrounded by angels the whole time, whether it was their team or their friends who showed up. She really let's go back to that idea of choice.
Yeah.
She really chose how she was going to navigate this experience.
Yeah.
She chose. And then she kept on re-choosing. When she would fall off, she just kept on re-choosing love and re-choosing hope. And it was really something to behold. And my thought is, it doesn't take a near-death experience or a horrible loss or a terrible diagnosis to decide, I'm here. I am going to see if I can even connect with my deepest, wildest wish, to see how that would feel in my body. Note that I didn't say to see if I can go get it, but really how I can live into the thrill of seeing it, feeling it, tasting it, imagining it, working towards it, talking about it, letting the breadcrumbs lead you along the way. It is literally the most fun ever.
And it's interesting because we called it as a mindful practice. And I'm like, well, that's a very active mindful process. And I just want to point out that mindfulness can be active because it's very intentional. I think oftentimes people think it's sitting on a mat, right?
Right.
But actually embodying desire, that's mindful, and noticing how it would feel and really connecting to how it would taste and how it would smell. Like all of that is mindfulness. And I think many of us, we just blow right past that. So I just want
we just think it's in our mind.
Yeah, it's just, whereas it's actually that. And that's why the wishing and the mindfulness are so, so powerful. Because and we're going to talk about my retreat center experience in a bit. But when you are, I knew what it would look like, what it would smell, so much so that when I walked in, I'm like, oh, here we are. This is it, right?
Have arrived.
It didn't look like I thought it would exactly. My body knew exactly. And so I think it's very interesting if we think about mindfulness in that way. We call it a practice, but it's literally practicing in your cells what something feels like and what they
full
smell
body.
Like. It's really
it's full
somatic
sensory,
experience.
It's full body. Definitely. And I'll tell you the truth. And this is part of where, some people could call this a little bit woo-woo, but if you experience it, you know what this is. So let's say you have this wish, you see it, you feel it, you taste it. Part of the guided visualization that I offer alongside Wishbeads is that invitation to really let it be a full body experience. To me, this is where you activate that attraction piece or the manifestation piece. This is where it becomes so clear that you're embodying this vision that literally people start things come to you. And I was sharing with you recently that I've just found this place to host some, what I'm calling wish camps nearby in Malibu. And it was effortless because I had been talking about it. One of the steps of the wish work, which is a 21-day process that people can do, is to say your wish out loud. I've been talking about wish camp for a while, which means that you enlist the help of people and their imaginations and their connections and their oh, I was thinking about you. You should meet such and such. You should connect with such and such. There are also random coincidences. And this is that power of attraction. People are literally drawn to you, or you catch something on the internet that just lands in your lap, or your Instagram feed pops up just the thing you're looking for. And when you begin to use your intention and your mindfulness meaning your awareness is tuned up, then it really does feel like a game. And now when I see new people sort of enter my world, it's like the movie is playing and there's a part of me that already knows the movie. So like when you walked into your retreat center, yes, you had envisioned it, but also a part of you is like, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. It feels familiar, like it's an old friend who shows up. Yeah. And so when I meet people, I'm like, oh yeah, cue the such and such, enter stage right. Like it's all, Hamlet's all the world's a stage. And all the men and women, I don't know if you know women, are merely players, but that's when you're living into the intentionality of life. And it comes from your wish. And I think sometimes we're living out, let's say, the wish that your parents had for you, or your spouse, or the wishes of your patients, or let's say the hospital you work for. When it's like, you didn't come here to live any of those wishes. They're definitely characters in your story, but you're the director, you're the author.
Well, and that is what you mentioned in your own story, is that moment where you're like, wait a minute, how did I get here? What's happening? What is it? And I think everyone has that at some point.
Sure.
And, you know, in medicine, we ignore it a lot because we're like, yes, but I did all this work to get here. And this isn't to say even that you shouldn't be in medicine, but often you're in the wrong setting or the wrong practice or the wrong specialty or the wrong part of the country. You know, it could be something as simple as that, or maybe it's not so simple. The other thing you mentioned here, which I think is really important, is it's not, we often think like you're waiting for a wish. You just sort of sit there. But what you pointed out in the manifestation is it's not that. It's, I'm going to use the word courage, right? It's risky to bring it up and actually let people know that this is a wish, because usually it's something a little outlandish, right? And in my case, like moving into a space where I could do retreats, like I would have never thought that was possible. And so it's like, is it really okay to share that? And yet that being vulnerable about it and putting it out into the world, literally then people do start reaching out. Oh, there's this place, or, you know, you have to sign up to get on the email list to get the listings of the places, or, you know, connecting, you have to ask this person to connect you with this person who can help you. And so that is actually an active process. I have
super active.
Several people recently say to me, oh, I wish I was you. And I was like, you don't wish you were me, but you actually have to start like putting yourself out there if you want these sorts of things to happen. They don't just happen. And I think sometimes when they happen to someone else, you think they just happened. And yet it starts with setting that intention, whether it's in a bracelet or not, but
absolutely. And I think that what social media has put us even in more of a dizzying tailspin, and the media in general, but you know, when we look at all these projected stories of other people, and even look at the rise of all the streaming and all that, we're so obsessed with consuming other people's stories that we literally, that are, you know, really most of them made up. I mean, they're fictional or reality, which is not really real anyway, but that we have lost the authorship of our own lives, our own cultivation of our own story. And it's constantly in this comparing to other people, which is why, and now I actually have a theory that AI is going to start generating so much content, right? Because there's so many people trying to produce content that it's going to flood all the channels, which means humans will be like, why would I do this? It's all just made up stuff. Like, well, this is actually a waste of my time. People will wake up to these deeper experiences, which is not, it's, I think, perfect timing that in your life, you're cultivating a retreat center. And in my world, I'm like, I want to take people to camp because there is something about experiences, real life, time with yourself, being human in the real form. Yes, we have digital things. You and I are communicating on a digital platform. But the importance of cultivation of love of self, love of body, you are here, it's experiential, it's sensory. We can't take that for granted. And right now we're drowning in distraction.
And love of other humans. That's the other beautiful thing in camps or retreats or immersion experiences, is that we don't do them alone. And you for sure have a facilitator or a leader, but you also have other people who may have never met. And that is part of the power, I think, of believing. Other people tend to believe in our wishes and our dreams before we do. And we sometimes need to borrow them. But if we don't tell anybody what our wish is, and I will say, because since we're talking about wish beads, is that I didn't necessarily, when I first put it in there, tell people what was in it. I think it's a bit of, you know, you have to get used to the idea. And then, so being,
well, you have to do yourself. It's like going to the gym. And I think that that's why, you know, the wish work, and I don't know if you've ever done the 21 days of wish work, saying your wish out loud doesn't come first. You really cultivate, you have to have, or the invitation is to experience a few of those moments of like, this was so crazy. Like on the day when it was just like day 3 is like listening to a song, listening to music, and is there a message in the song? And you have that moment where you're like, wait a minute. Those are those aha moments where you wake up to the magic of life, the coincidences. So I think it's like day 17 when you say it out loud. But it is like going to the gym. You go a little bit by little bit by little bit, and you build up that muscle of confidence that this feels like a game. It feels like a game. And then it's a game that you want to play because it really literally is the game of life.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of my mission, is really to bring the world of wishing to people, to children, to people in schools, to people of any age, so that they can awaken to their own magic. So the bracelet's a beautiful reminder, but the bracelet isn't magic. We're magic.
Yes.
You know, we're
I love
magic.
that idea. I actually had a very special human who has worked with me in a number of retreats, and I met her by happenstance, but she actually says, like, you don't bring the magic, you are the magic.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, the wish is the same thing, right? The bracelet doesn't bring the magic. It comes from within.
No.
But it is something that helps you identify with it. I do have one question for you about, I often will, the beads on your bracelets have certain connections. And so there's love and forgiveness, or there's wealth and wisdom, or there's, I don't know, protection and healing or something. I can't remember them all. They're all different stones. And as we talked about when I came on your podcast, I actually choose them. I bring a bunch and then I choose them to go with the person. Now, I don't know what wish is going to be in them, but I'm curious about the intent on the other side. Sometimes for me, it's a color or it's a texture, more so than what's on the box, because it tells you what's inside. And I've seen all of them now, because I think I probably have bought all of them. And so I can sometimes say, oh, this person needs this one. But I'm curious about what you think the power of the stones is.
I have a very light touch on it, because I don't want to have any process of this feel so rarefied or so prescriptive. I have, like, I just did an event and I bring this little, almost, it looks like a menu, and has all these different qualities, that's reflective of all the different stones. And for some people, they really lean into like, this is the power of the stones. But just like a bracelet isn't magic, there could be alignment there. Absolutely, because there's a lot of people who studies crystals and gemstones and really say there is power to that. And I think that's beautiful. I say to people, because I believe in the power of own intuition, what stone are you drawn to? And so you, as a facilitator, I have another facilitator, actually a man in particular, he loves, like, his retreats is a culmination of like 6 months working with his community. And he loves picking out the stone for them. And he presents it with his intention for them. This is why I chose this for you. I think it's a magnificent way to do that. And people feel seen and considered and heard, and all of that is so beautiful. So I really love that way.
And it is something about, sort of your connection with them. So I almost wonder if it gives it a little more power to the wish.
I do. I think because it's energy, love, and attention. And that's more interesting to me. When I do watch people who look at that menu or who are looking at the stones, I see this one moment where they want to make the right choice.
Yes.
And this is when I feel those blinders come on, because it's like, well, I do want to work on wealth and wisdom, which is light jade, but I really love this coral jade, which is, confidence and strength and stuff like that. And so I always will say, what is your heart calling to? Just call that in. This is not like a genie gives you 3 wishes or there's only 1 wish in your whole life. Like, your being is attracted to something. And there can also be something as simple as like, I always wear black. Great. It's meant to be worn every day. Get your black onyx on, because that's to help you, that's for healing and protection. It also absorbs stress. Can't go wrong. World's stressful place. And if you wear black, cool. It's going to go with everything you wear. So
and
I'm
you can have more than one.
And you can have more than one.
I have 3.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a lot of ways to do this, and I never ever, and I said to somebody when they were feeling like I really felt like they were worried that they were going to do this wrong. I said, I really want you to know that I have made this up.
Yeah.
Like I don't have a PhD in wishing. Like this is,
yeah.
I have a lot of stories about how it works.
Yeah.
But like you do you with this. Like that's what I want. I want people to iterate on it. I want people to be playful. I know a mother and daughter, the mother was going through a terrible illness, and the daughter wrote a love note to her mom and tucked it inside her wish beads. How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
I know another woman who said that she went to go change out her wish. Her wish came true. She wanted to put in another piece of wish paper. Her child had snuck a little note in there instead. How cute is that?
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Amazing. So there's so many ways where I feel like people can iterate on it, and I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think it's to keep it light is really important. And wishes to me inspire lightness instantly. But I'm also I'm smiling because of this idea. I always think we take things too seriously.
Totally.
And when we play is when things actually start moving and you get the flow and, whatever is supposed to happen happens. And so
totally.
That's one of the reasons I love that word wishing in kids yoga, because I use it in adult yoga too. I'm like, you can wish rather than set an intention because that's easier. And everybody knows what that is. And they don't take it so seriously. It's not like you're going to wish for the wrong thing.
Exactly. And I, while I am a very long time meditator and I have many spiritual practices that I'm tuned into and plugged into in my own life, I love that wishing doesn't occupy all those spaces, that it really can be what you want it to be. It is not bumping up against a religion or it's part of a yoga. It's something that really transcends it. And I don't think that we've really given the weight of the ritual of blowing out a birthday candle, like making birthday wishes. It's a phenomenal thing that we all do. So let's really give it our power. Let's take back our power to really activate and materialize what we, came here to experience. And I mean that mindfully, that it's not just what can I get? It's not material things. Generally speaking, your retreat center, which I really want you to share your retreat story. But there's material there, but it's so much more than that. You're in such service, and that giving, that sanctuary of giving is really what you created when your wish came true.
And I actually think that's really important to me too, because there's this sense of like, oh, well, I wished for this thing, but it's not really a thing. It's really a conduit or a vehicle for sharing different energy and drawing people in who need it. And so it's, a spot on the earth that has a certain energy, and it is going to bring so much healing and other wishes to other people, right? It's like the ripple effect.
Yeah. And light jade was wealth and wisdom.
Yeah.
So you can look at wealth, and believe me, you deserve to be quite wealthy. Yeah. But the idea of wealth, there's material wealth, but there is this idea of abundance and wisdom. And so it's so beautiful that like that wish actually did come from that stone. Your intention. Merging with that stone.
Well, and if I think about it in that way, it's a space where I share my wisdom and I share the tools. And I think wealth is health, right? Wealth is really wealth of love and family relationships and giving back to the world. And so if you think about it that way, I think it's just a beautiful way to sort of sometimes we feel bad about our wishes, or we feel there's a little part of me that's like, oh, I should feel guilty. Like, wow, that's this amazing wish. And it actually came true. And it's like, maybe, and yet the idea to be able to share it and let other people know, wow, this is possible. And whatever your wish is could be possible too.
Yeah. It gives 100 times over. I mean, more. Yeah. You won't even know the impact. You won't even know the impact. And even looking back when I had all those online courses, I can't even tell you how many times I would be up in the room that I recorded alone and just going, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Who am I to like write this course about this or that? And then something happened, time, opportunity, momentum. And I think when I look at, there's an interactive map that I can look at to see who purchased a course. There are people who are studying something that I produced, like from countries I hadn't even heard of.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, what an honor. What an honor that somewhere, maybe something I said helped them show up a little brighter in their life. I find that the most humbling thing ever. Just so beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah. I find that very humbling too. And yet it's just this, you get these little chills when those things happen. So similar to Wishbeads. So shall we pivot a little bit? I know we were going to talk a bit about my wish coming true, and I'm actually really interested to have you ask me some of your questions about it.
Yeah.
Because that will be fun. Different twist.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if you want to ever so briefly, and if this is pertinent, to just share how you found out about Wishbeads. Like what was your origin story?
Yeah. So my origin story, my Wealth and Wisdom Wishbead bracelet was actually given to me by one of my coaches, who's the one I still coach with, because she and I are just aligned in, and I'll just give the example that this woman who I haven't talked to her in a month or so, but today she sent me a text and she's like, I'm just called to reach out to you. Meanwhile, I'm at my brand new spot. I mean, she knew about it, but she didn't know that I had been able to get in today. And I was there at that moment, for example. So it's this someone really seeing you. And she, I think, very clearly saw sort of she picked out the Wealth and Wisdom. I didn't pick it out. So isn't that interesting?
So interesting.
And so she gifted it to me. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, well, this is what I need. Like, this is what I can help, this is exactly what I need to give people at the end of retreats. And I will say my first 2 retreats, I didn't have them. So I discovered them after that. They have been a part, and I've now done 16 of that retreat. So, been a part of 14 of them. And I think I found it such a valuable practice, and it just was immediately aligned with, so they came to me through her, and yet I was like, wow, well, this is what I need. Where do I get these? And so I just started researching it, and then immediately was like, I need these. And as soon as I started giving them out and having that experience and working with people on it, it just became clear that that was like a part of what I do.
Oh, I love it. I'm so honored. I mean, I really this is exactly what I was hoping with Wishbeads, This is exactly it. People who just incorporate it into the work that they do, make it part of that practice. And that's that ripple that goes out. It's just so awesome.
Yeah. And I think there's 2 things about it. One is people love getting gifts. So they also, especially women. So I work mostly with women in healthcare, and they're usually the ones in their family who gets everyone else a gift. So to have someone give them a gift that is also very personalized. So, I've either picked the stones or the color or something in their story. There's always something. And then, so that allows them to be seen. And then it's something that's just for them. This has got your wish in it. And that is so rare for, high achieving women in the world, that I think it's really, really powerful. And I'm certain, it's helpful for people in other realms too. All the women who are overworking and over responsible and not taking any time for themselves. What a beautiful way to just for people to be seen beyond the power of the wish and what happens from there.
Yeah. So let me ask you, when you were visualizing, or did you do any type of visualization work when you had this thought of like, I would love to own my own retreat center one day? Like, what was that process for you?
I think it's different. I have read the 21-day thing, though. I think I'm not a recipe follower. And so in fact, I'm a rule breaker. So I would do it and then I would change it up, because that's just, I can't follow directions. In fact, I don't cook for that reason. So in my visualization, I'm very much like a feeling person. So I would, as I was at other spots doing retreats, I could feel that like, oh, this thing will be a part of the retreat center. So it's not so much that I saw it, although I know we've talked about in the past that I had a view of like mountaintops and light. And what's really interesting about the place that I am ending up is that it's not on a mountaintop, but you have to drive right over a mountaintop to get to it. And the hike that's 5 minutes down the road is on this beautiful mountaintop and looks very much like what I was envisioning.
Wow, it's so cool.
I'm much more of a somatic person. So I think for me, I felt it. And that's probably
Yeah.
why when I pulled in, I was like, oh, this is it.
This is it. You just know.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important, and I'm sure you do this in your work, that relationship to our body and our body's knowing.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody, and her youngest child is finally going off to school. She's a single mom. And she had wish beads, but she was also confessing, like, I have no idea. Like, I've been in it, and I have no idea what I want. And I said, when was the last time that you asked yourself, like, what do I want for dinner? Like, start with something so tiny. What drink do I want when I go to the kitchen? Like, what show do I want to watch? And it's a different relationship to self. So in that same way, it's like, how does my body want to move? What do I want to listen to? What do I want to taste? I think it's it's such an important muscle to exercise, the relationship to self.
And in medicine, we were taught to turn that off 100%.
Yeah.
We don't want anything. But I think that's also true for women, and especially mothers who are like, no, I don't matter until these humans become, I don't even know what age we decide it's okay to matter again. But then we're grandma and we don't matter anymore again. But I think it's really important to allot that time. And I do think, as I'm thinking about retreats, that's part of it. It's literally an outward expression of, I matter. I'm going to take this time for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to invest in me and invest the time and the energy and the money and the space and the rest and all of it. And then that's where things begin to shift and move.
Yeah, absolutely. So fun. I think that's why we're very kindred spirits in that way.
Yeah. So I don't know that I did the actual visualization in that sense. And yet I did it in my own
you did
version.
it.
Yeah.
You did it because you knew. So when we talked and when you were on my podcast, it was like you were on the hunt for this thing. You knew it was coming. You were feeling it. It was coming. And then lo and behold, time passed, you and I, and I said, oh yeah, I'd love to do your podcast. And then here we are on this day, the day of this recording, May 21st, 2024. Yeah. And you're like, hi, early in the day, I got access to my retreat center.
Yeah. Crazy.
Bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny because we were actually driving home and I was like, I can't believe, because I was looking at the schedule. I was like, how did this happen today? That's just unbelievable. So,
but see, that's part of the game. That's waking up to the game. Yeah. And then we don't have that. Then we learn to say, oh, it's not unbelievable. It's just like, got it. Yeah. Awesome.
It's supposed to happen.
So when people look,
the power of believing.
It's monumental. And it reminds me of, and I have to watch it because I haven't watched it in a while, but the film Life is Beautiful, which is, again, it depends on what story are you telling yourself? And when you're in that place of surrendering and believing, and let's say asking your guides for assistance or asking for a sign, what you are seeing is changing the chemistry in your body. So if you are someone who sees 11:11 on the clock all the time, like I do my whole life, that's a sign. Now, other people have seen that phenomenon. People wrote books about it, that it's some kind of sign. To me, it's like what I call them, like winks from the universe. It's like somebody just saying, like, I got you, Alexa. You keep going, girl. And what I can't tell you is scientifically, is that real or not real? Does it matter? If it lifts my heart in the moment, it's real to me.
Yep. Yep.
That's the power of belief. I have friends who call chemotherapy treatments miracle juice. That's what they call it. Going in for my miracle juice today. And I'm sure it's a different, if somebody comes in and say, I'm being poisoned.
Yeah.
This is poisoning. This is poison in my body. It's a different energetic experience.
And I think that's what the wishing and the wish beads are all about. It's choosing the energy you want to show up with.
Yes.
And choosing to believe. That's the other thing. Choosing to believe in something that maybe you didn't think possible, but you're going to decide it's possible and see what happens. Because why not?
Yeah. Why not? And if you do it in community, if you do it in joy, if you do it in curiosity, you are going to experience life a little bit differently. You may get your wish. You might get something better.
Yeah.
You might get something better. Something else might come. But one thing I can tell you, if you do the same thing over and over again, day in and day out, you will probably live a very similar experience because that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So you have to have the courage to say, what would it feel like to wake up at a different hour, to go to sleep at a different hour, to walk in an area of town that I've never walked in before? Go to an event by myself. What would that feel like? Something different will happen because you are showing up differently. That's pretty obvious. So it is an invitation to connect with your heart. It's an invitation to open your imagination alongside your heart and go on an adventure, and an adventure that I would say that you came here to go on. So yeah, get wishing.
Get wishing. And I am inspired by our conversation today that I need a new wish. Right? Once that,
yeah, but
now
this
I'm
time,
like, I have to be thoughtful because it's going to come true.
yes. And if you would do me the honor, I'd already planned on sending you one. So this is my opportunity to intuit, to see what I can
I'm ready.
bestow upon you for your next great wish.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I'm open and willing. So
amazing.
Can't wait. Thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation. It was so fun and delightful. And I also really love that there's another human being on the other side of this. I think the world is so, commercial. And so to have another human who is so like-minded, who's making something with real intent and healthy, loving energy behind it, that is also added into the bracelet, right? That goes everywhere.
Thank you.
That
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think a lot of times people do assume that, they're just some heartless big company or whatever. And it's not been easy. Let me tell you, anyone thinking they want to start a product-based business, I had no idea what I was doing. Not easy at all. And sometimes I'll get, customer service, something goes weird with something or other, shipping or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, the tone is very, very curt and a little bit rude and a little bit frustrated. And I understand that because customer service is not something fun. The minute they realize who they're actually dealing with, like I have a very small team, they're like, oh, wait, it's you.
Yeah. And so that's important to me. And I think it's just an important way for all of us to move through the world, to support aligned people who are bringing goodness out to the world. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure. And I'm so thrilled for you and all that lies ahead for you. People are so lucky to be able to attend your beautiful retreats and get to work with you. And it's just awesome.
Thank you. I'm practicing just saying thank you, by the way. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for joining us.
We encourage you to dive into the show notes for each episode for more learnings and resources.
We also invite you to take a listen to the many other Mindful Healers podcast episodes. And please share the podcast far and wide with colleagues, friends, and family.
If our message and approach resonate with you, we would love to work with you.
When you listen to a podcast, you consume information, but when you work with us, you can actually practice and change.
We offer coaching and mindfulness experiences, talks, workshops, retreats, and more. Connect with us at themindfulhealerspodcast.com.
The content of this podcast is not medical or life advice. We invite you to participate in the mindful moments we offer at the end of most of our podcasts, but please only do so safely.